The moment I say concave mirror, you have to draw the concave mirror, the first rule. Always the reflecting side should be directed towards the left side. So do not draw it in the opposite direction. And then for a concave mirror, now this part will be called as a pole, where the principal axis, what is principal axis? This line, the horizontal line, the sleeping line, it is called as the principal axis. The principal axis is the point on the mirror, and then you have focus in front of the concave mirror. For a concave mirror, the focus will be in front of the mirror, and then this is the center of curvature. In order for you to understand the sign conventions, you have to consider this whole thing as a Cartesian plane, which means you have to consider this principal axis as x-axis, and the pole will turn out to be your origin. And then this concave mirror will act like a y-axis, So how you should imagine this whole setup as a Cartesian plane. The principal axis will act like a x-axis and the mirror will act like a y-axis. The pole is your origin. So anything from pole to the right side of this horizontal line, which we are now calling as the x-axis, this is all the positive x-axis. From pole towards the left, this horizontal line will become the negative x-axis. From pole upwards, this line, they will all have positive values. From pole below the principal axis, this line contains all the negative values. So, just like the Cartesian plane. So I'll just give some numbers for your understanding. 4. And then how should I draw this as? -1, -2, -3, -4, -5, and so on. Let the focus be at -3. Let the focus be at -3. Imagine. Now, let us understand the terms. What is u? U is the object distance. What is u? U is object distance. It is the distance between the object and the mirror. What is it? Distance between object and mirror. Distance between object and mirror. And where do we keep the mirror, children? Mirror is always kept on the left side, that is in front of the mirror. So imagine keeping the mirror at this position with the head pointing upwards. So how far is the object from the mirror? It is at -6. So u will become negative. You will have always negative signs. It is at a distance of 6 centimeters. And since it is on the negative x-axis, the u will have always negative sign. So I am writing always. Whatever is the condition, you will always have a negative sign. Now, focus. This is a focus. How do you define focal length? Focal length is the distance from focus to the mirror. So from here till here is your focal length, the small f. Again, if the focus is at this point, where is this point? It is on the negative x-axis. So focal length will always be negative for a concave mirror. Whatever be the position of the object, focal length will always be negative. Why? Because this focus in front of the mirror and the focal length is calculated on negative x-axis. Now, let us come to V. What is V? V is image distance. V is image distance. So, you should know, children, that concave mirror forms two types of images. One is real and inverted and the other one is virtual and erect. Now, there are 6 positions for the object for concave mirror. Out of these 6 positions, 5 positions will give you real and inverted images. And 1 position will give you virtual and erect image. Now, whenever the image is real and inverted, the image will form in front of the mirror. How does it form? Imagine the image is falling like this. If it is the image is in front of the mirror, it will be inverted and it will form like this. Now, see, what is image distance? Distance from the image to the lens. Now, where is this based on? This image has the base on negative x-axis. So, again, for the image distance, I will get a negative sign. When will you get a negative sign? When the image is real and inverted. So I cannot write for V always condition. I have limitations. When the image is real and inverted, I will get a negative sign. Now see, sometimes in the last case where the object is kept between the focus and the pole, you will get a virtual image. What do you mean by virtual image? Image will be behind the mirror. So, if the image is falling behind the mirror in this case, then the image will be erect, which means the top side will be pointing towards the upwards, and then it will be virtual image. At such a condition, what is V? V is the distance between the image and the mirror. So this will be called as V, and since now the object is based on the positive x-axis, the image distance will have a positive side. So a virtual and erect image will have a positive sign for V. So we covered U, F, V. Now we should know H and H prime, or what is H? H is the height of object. What is height of object? Now imagine I kept object of 5 centimeters in front of the mirror. So height of the object is 5 centimeters. Since we are talking about the height of the object, I will see this arrow mark is pointed towards which direction? Is it pointed towards the positive y-axis or is it pointed towards the negative y-axis? So, for the sign convention of the heights of the image and the object, you should check how this object is pointed. Is the object pointed towards the positive y-axis or negative y-axis? Always the objects are pointed in the positive y-axis. Hence, positive y-axis, this is the positive y-axis, and hence the objects will always have positive sign, always. H prime, what is this? This is the height of the image. This is height of image. For this, again, for concave, there are 2 conditions. If the image is real or virtual. If the image is real, for a real image, the object will be pointing towards the negative y-axis. The object will be pointed towards the negative y-axis. Hence, the H prime will be taken as a negative when the image is real and inverted. Now, if the image is falling on the other side of the mirror, then it will be called as a virtual image. And then in this case, the image will be pointing towards the positive y-axis. And hence, the height H prime or the height of the image will be positive when the image is virtual and erect. Virtual and erect. So this you should know, children, no need to by heart. Imagine a Cartesian plane. Where will be the focal length? The focal length will be in front of the mirror. The in front of the mirror is all negative x-axis. So focal length will always be negative. Since I always keep the object in front of the mirror, u will always be negative. This is u. U always will be negative. Okay. And then H, since I will be pointing the object always when I am keeping the object, I keep it in upright position. Hence, it will be pointing upwards towards the positive. H will always be positive. These are the always signs. Now, depending on whether you get a real or virtual image, some signs for V and H prime will change. If the image is real, then the V will be negative because it will be falling again in front of the mirror. However, if the object is virtual, image will be falling on the other side and it will be based on the positive x-axis. We will have a positive side. Now, how about the height of the image? If the image is real, it will be pointing downwards. Since it will be inverted image, it will be pointed downwards, which means it is pointing towards the just like the negative y-axis, and hence for a real image, h prime, which is height of the image, will be negative. For a virtual and erect image will be pointed towards the positive y-axis, and hence it will have positive side for virtual and erect image.